in the clouds, right? Heaven is a dimension that's right in front of you, but your eyes cannot see it. It's right in front of you, your eyes can't see it. What is testimony? But you see, how can you give testimony when you're an ordinary person? I want to talk to you about being an ordinary person. How can an ordinary person have a testimony? Do you understand what I'm saying? How can someone who has been described to not live a life that is not exceptional begin to tell exceptional stories? Or begin to have an exceptional report? This is very important tonight. As we go into a season of revival, I need you to understand that association is very key in this business. Who is speaking for you and who do you sound like? Association. You know, as young people, this is the thing that we destroy. We don't know how to value relationships. We don't know how to value who is in our life. So you either live life in a way where you have the wrong people speaking for you, or you sound like the wrong person. Listen, this is very simple. Have you ever come towards someone and just wondered why everything that came out of your mouth just angered them? But you didn't insult them. You sounded like someone. You sounded like someone they did not agree with. Who is speaking for you? And who do you sound like? Are you hearing me? What is your association? If you're in a relationship, you do know that it will come to a place where you begin to sound like one another. Don't pretend like you're not very familiar. Or if you're a married couple, you transcend from that place where you used to say I, and you begin to say we. Do you hear what I'm saying? You stop saying me, and you start saying us. You cannot put a sentence together, even if your husband did not care about whatever it was you're negotiating, you'd say we. But I want you to know that all this thing I'm saying builds up to one thing: testimony. Who is speaking for you and who do you sound like? That's the reason why we haven't been able to get into certain places in life. You sound like the wrong person. Or you've come before someone, or you've sent someone to speak for you and you sent the wrong person. Have you ever tried to complete a task and you sent the wrong person? Minister Daniel's laughing. He knows. We have a very tough teacher, so he sends you to go complete a work and you're busy, so you decide, hey, you, come, let me tell you something. Go and do and you just decide to send dollars down. That's it. You're finished. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Or if you've been in a family, you know who to send forward. You've got your little brother. You need something done. This guy, okay, come. Now, this is the... And then you know how little brothers and little sisters are. They nod very hard as if everything's going in like, yeah. I've been through it. And then you roll them forward. They get up there, and then by the time they come back, you can hear the shout that's following them from behind. And you just think, what did you go and say? How could you have said something that's wrong? Yeah? But when they do get it right, as long as they don't mention your name, you're going to get that thing, right? Because you sent the right person. And also, maybe your little brother is shocked, your little sister is shocked. It's not common, don't worry. Who is speaking for you, and who do you sound like? Very important for us as young people. Because we always decide to merge with other people because we think we like them, or we think we have something in common with them. How can you have friends when you have not lived life? When a friend is a person that shares a burden with you. When the scripture says there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. So how can you tell me you have friends? I have an issue with someone who tells me they have many friends. Already I know something is wrong. Something is wrong. So when the word begins to change you and people begin to leave your life, it's the first testimony you give. I've just gone into the word, I've gone into this part, and people are now living in me. Praise God, I'm growing. You fool, you should have started like that anyway. How can you have friends? These guys, let me not get into Toby mode. Bring it in. These people will put you in trouble because you keep on sending the wrong person forward. You know, there's one of the boys that follows me, and I kept on telling him, you see this guy is no good. No, sir, he's my friend. Don't worry, sir, I've got it under control. What do you have under control? Imagine the person almost ruined his life. And then now that they're separated, he's giving testimony. Oh, praise God. Yeah. It should have never been. You decide to experiment with yourselves. Are you guys lab rats? You use yourself to just, goodness, where the pharmacists here? Just mixing up stuff. Yeah? Mixing up people that don't matter. From different funny backgrounds. But you like their face. I told the guys that the black man is one of the most stupid people and most foolish men and craziest creatures that has ever existed. He will go and pick a wife because of something called a bomb. You think it's funny? He will go and join with somebody else because of bomb that the person passes crap out of. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Seriously, I'm being serious with you now. That is why he will go and decide to live the rest of my life because she looks fine. No, I need to speak to you now because you want to give testimony. But how? How can you give testimony when the whole makeup and the whole formula to your life is wrong? The person who you've decided to move with, yeah, we move together. Kim, how am I doing with my slang? Where's Kim? That was good, yeah. Move with. The person you decided to move with is so different from you. How can it work? I know, yes, the scripture just say things like, if two be agreed and this and that and this and that. But let's even just put that to the side. Why do you like to pretend? Do you not know that the very events of your life depend of what you've been saying and who has been saying what about you? If you live life based on a good report, based on a good testimony, do you know what that feels like? So the richest man that ever existed will say, better is a good name. Better is a good name. You begin to pay pay attention to these things because this guy had everything. Your name ends up in the lap of a king for the right reasons. And then when things begin to go right for you, you begin to say things like, God is giving me breakthrough. No. Principles have just come together. Let's not start becoming too spooky. There's just certain things you must do in life as a young person. Guard yourself from who you associate with. Because those people, you will end up sounding like them. That's the worst thing about gangs. You begin to sound like some imbeciles. You begin to sag your trousers, not knowing that it came from guys who were in prison. They lock their hands up and their trousers will fall and they won't be able to pull their trousers up. So that's why they walk like that. And then afterwards, they will leave the street and do the same thing, animals. Then you will come and you have belts, but you just decided, let me show them my Calvin Klein today. That's even if they have money for Calvin Klein. Association. Who do you sound like? Who do you sound like? There's some of you, you've gone to sit down before big corporations for partnership, for business, for deals. One of you went to go meet Nike for partnership. Thank God you went with some people. Because if you had gone on your own, God knows what you would have said. Who do you sound like? This is still testimony. Who you sound like will depend on how people hear you. I can be saying good morning and sound like the devil. If the devil told you good morning, would you say good morning back? So you think it's all about your words? No. If he did, will you greet him back? Let us know, because let's start separating you from So, as ordinary people, what do we begin to do? We understand this, and then we begin to align ourselves with someone that's extraordinary. Because we're ordinary. How can an ordinary man bring revival in his generation? He must align himself and get into relationship with someone that is extraordinary. He must decide to have a father. He must, because many things and many people have fathered us. A father is not just a male. The very thing that you've adopted your own ideology on, your own thought process on, has fathered you. Maybe it was the roads, then the roads fathered you. But it's dependent on who fathered you will depend on how you speak. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Because this is the week of testimony. And if this is the week of testimony, we have to get it right, isn't it? Tulsa Hill, we have to get it right. We have to get it right. And if we get it right, then this week should be filled with testimony. Are you hearing me? This week should be filled with testimony. Your words should be laced with testimony. Are you ready for the word? Let's go to Joshua chapter 10. Read this from verse 12. It's on Lizzie B. Joshua chapter 10. From verse 10, I believe. Sure. Yes, please.
The Lord threw them into confusion before Israel. So Joshua and the Israelites defeated them completely at Gibeon. Israel pursued them along the road going up to Beth Horon and cut them down all the way to Azekah and Makkedah. As they fled before Israel on the road down to Beth Horon to Azekah, the Lord hurled large hailstones down on them, and more of them died from the hail than were killed by the swords of Israelites. On the day the Lord gave the Amorites over to Israel, Jesus said to the Lord in the presence of Israel, "Sun, stand still over Gibeon, and you, moon, over the valley of Ajalon." So the sun stood still, and the moon stopped, till the nation avenged itself on its enemies, as it is written in the book of Jasher. The sun stopped in the middle of the sky and delayed going down about the full day. There has never been a day like it before or since, a day when the Lord listened to a human being. Surely the Lord was fighting for Israel.
We'll stop there. So here stands an ordinary man, no different from you and I. You know, when the scripture began to speak about a guy called Elijah, it said, a man of like passion. Do you know why it decided to say a man of like passion? It wanted you to know that if Elijah was here right now, he too would have a Netflix account. A man of like passion. He too would want to take out a Mercedes on finance. These guys were no different from you and I. Everything you feel inside you is the very same things they too had. They're not gods. Ordinary men. At what point does an ordinary man come to the place where he tells the sun to stop and it stops moving? Are you hearing me, Tulse Hill? We're talking about a season of revival. Events in this season cannot be ordinary. Although you're ordinary people, these events in this season can't be ordinary. It all depends on who you're attached to. Have you become fathered by him? Joshua, let me tell you something about Joshua, the way he was able to do this. This guy had decided that he has no life but to follow the man of God. So he learned how to speak. His very nature, he learned. So when he began to speak, did you not read there? It said, then he spoke to the Lord. He didn't speak to the Son. He spoke to the Lord. And these things stopped. He spoke to the Lord. You know, if you have not begun a relationship with the Father, you won't know how to speak to him. And so you begin to understand and you begin to rack your head and say, why can't I produce extraordinary results? Why can't I ever have a testimony about myself? How can you come here and when they say, do you have a testimony, and you can't raise your hand? You haven't been speaking with the Father. Furthermore, you don't know how to speak to him. Because anyone that engages in a relationship with him should surely have testimony. I don't agree with that scripture where it says, and since then no one has ever done this kind of thing. Do you know why? That was Joshua writing that stuff. He just presumed in the head and said, you know what? I don't think anyone's going to draw close to this guy like I did. Are you hearing what I'm saying? How far do you choose to take this relationship? You're talking about Father's Day, but have you connected to the Father? Do you think it's about buying gifts for your father? Or have you really connected to the Father? Quickly go to Joshua chapter 1. And you will see the instructions that were given to Joshua that changed him. From that verse 1.
After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord,
Yes.
the Lord said to Joshua, son
Yes.
of Nun, Moses' aide,
Yes.
Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all these people, get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I am about to give to them,
Yeah.
to the Israelites. I will give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon, and from the great river, the Euphrates, all the Hittite country, to the Mediterranean Sea in the
Right.
west. no one will be able to stand against
What does all this stuff sound like to you? What are all these things? What do they sound like to you? If Joshua accomplishes all these things, what would they be? What would they be? Your God is a God of testimony. It's the only way he knows how to relate. There has to be a testimony. It's all about him. It's never about you. If you really have a relationship with the Father, then you know that you're on a mission to make him known. If you're still in you, if you're still about you, you have not started with him. Because when he met Joshua, listen, Joshua was with Moses this whole time. But yet, there was nothing for him to accomplish. God was just saying, your time is soon coming when you get to know me. And when you get to know me, you realize it's all about me. It's never about you. Have you met the Father? Have you connected with him? Continue.
No one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life.
Wow.
As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written.
Okay, stop there. And so then after God begins to reel out, and I'll begin to round up so we can have some time to pray. After God begins to reel out all the highlights that needs to be accomplished, he then tells him, keep this book of the law. Keep this Old Testament, this old testimony. Keep this New Testament, this new testimony. Keep it on your lips. Read that again. Keep it on your lips.
Keep this book of the law always on your lips.
Thank you. Keep it on your lips. I say again, keep it on your lips. Keep it on your lips. Where did he tell you to keep it? Where did he tell you to keep it? Because if you have testimony on your lips, you can't help but every time you open your mouth to speak testimony, it will be automatic. You listen to me. Tulse Hill is a ground of wordsmiths. Do you know what it means to be a wordsmith? It's a man that has mastered words. There are goldsmiths. These guys have mastered gold. They know how to smelt it. They know how to draw the impurities out. It's a ground of wordsmiths. You begin to master words. You know what testimony to mix with the other testimony, and then you know how God will act. So that day when Joshua looked at the sun, he knew what to say because the word has been on his lips. Are you hearing what I'm saying? So if you're in the season of testimony, if you're in the week of testimony, and you have no testimony, then there is no word on your lips. You've been filled with actions. You've been doing the coming to church, the Thursdays, you've just been doing these stuff. But when you get home, you cannot put that word on your lips. You've been struggling to put that word on your lips. Your very life depends on how much of this word you keep on your lips. How do you know a man that's struggling from keeping these words on his lips? Spend a few moments or a few minutes speaking to this person. Monitor the words that come out from those lips. If they sound any different to what you're reading, that guy has no relationship with the Father. Let me tell you something. I'm not talking about relationship with Jesus. He's a good guy. Are you hearing me? He will forgive you at any point in time. And it says so in scripture, so this is not blasphemy. But you see, you decide to get engaged in a relationship with the Father. It's a different ballgame. It's a different personality of God. You have to be perfect. He said, have you seen a man that is perfect with his words? He is perfect. He has entered into the Father's system. Do you want to live a life of testimony? Are you tired of just saying, oh, I'm just a child of God? Oh, I'm a child of God, I'm a child of God. Do you want to enter into sonship? Do you want to say that you have now engaged in a relationship with the Father? Keep this word on your lips. Begin to change your words. Begin to change your words. And that's why the senior pastor will always say, to hell with people who are gossipers. You know, your senior pastor will say some crazy stuff like that. You hear him say, hey, you know what? Fornicator, you can deal with. Imagine. But you see gossiper. I can't stand. When you meet a person like that, that's a person that has engaged in relationship with the Father. They're so particular about the testimony that comes from your mouth. How do you sound? And who is speaking for you? So when Joshua opened his mouth, the sun thought it was the Father speaking. The moon thought it was the Father speaking. And so they began to align and just say, we're not going nowhere. And the Father himself didn't know something was happening. He noticed an error. He thought to himself, why hasn't this thing come down? Because in the beginning, when he placed them there, he made them governors of day and night. Have you read that in your scripture? It said the sun to govern the day, the moon to govern the night. So they themselves are governors. Nothing and no one should be able to move them. But I, who put them up there? So when they had been altered, he thought, who is that? But guess what? There's a guy who had placed the words on his lips. He had the law on his lips. He had the law on his lips. Everything that came from his mouth was good testimony. Everything that came from his mouth was good testimony. And so when he began to speak, the elements of earth had to just align. That was the testimony for Joshua that night. That was the testimony for Joshua that day. Imagine the people he was fighting. They must have been so freaked out. Like, why are we still fighting? Why is there still daylight? We were waiting for nighttime so we can cut these guys down. Have you ever been in a situation where it cannot change until your own testimony speaks? It will not change. Don't go and pray. You're wasting your time. Have you filled your lips with word? And that's what that situation is waiting for. Because, listen, did it not say there that that was the first time the Lord listened to a human being? The first time the Father listened to an ordinary man. So when it comes to the Father, you can't just get him to move anyhow. It's either you sound like him or you don't. He can't be moved. But listen, imagine the King of all kings. Imagine you're in a place where you're the one that orders him around. That's not possible. We're talking about the Father here. I'm not telling you about coming into salvation. Jesus coming into the heart. It's good, that's good, but that's not what we're doing about that. We're talking about a situation where you need the Father to move for you. That guy called the Father is not going to move by nobody instructing him. You better just, you have to sound like him. It's at the point of you sounding like him and things begin to run around thinking that it's him speaking. That's when he goes, oh, what's going on here? Oh, okay, right. My son is at work. Listen, this is scripture. Christ saw a dead man and he said, listen, Lord, I'm praying to you, but not because I have to pray. I have understood that in this position, prayer will not cause this. But I'm just doing this for these little ones here because they're used to seeing prayer before something happens. But I know I sound like you. I know that your word is on my lips. And all I need to do is go into that grave and say, come out. Are you hearing what I'm saying? You want to see the Father move, but you want to go down on your knees and pray. You better sound like him. That's how you get his attention. Are you hearing me? You better sound like him. If your life is wrong, begin to find ways to put it right. Connect with a minister. Connect with somebody that you know will motivate you to put it right. Because you need to sound like him. Who is speaking for you? And who do you sound like? Go to Genesis chapter 4. So we've covered who do you sound like, right? Now we need to know who is speaking for you. As I begin to round up so that my brother can come and lead us in prayer, very vital. Genesis chapter 4, I believe from verse 10. Oh, verse 1 to 10. Read from verse 1 to 10.
Adam made love to his wife Eve, and she became pregnant.
Genesis 4.
And she became pregnant with and gave birth to Cain. She said, "With the help of the Lord I have brought forth a man." Later she gave birth to his brother Abel. Now Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to God, to the Lord. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." Now Cain said to his brother Abel, "Let's go out to the field." While they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" "I don't know," he replied. "Am I my brother's keeper?" The Lord said, "What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground."
Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Who is speaking for you? Who is speaking for you? You know, poor Abel, the only guy that could speak for him was his blood. The only guy that could speak for him was his blood. Now, I'll allow you to read that in your own private time because of the time. But you will go on to see that God cursed Cain, but protected him. He cursed Cain, but he protected him. So Abel's blood wasn't even able to get the justice it wanted. Abel's blood, the strength of man, the life of man. Sometimes we place so much strength in our ability. You know, you have opportunities where you feel, "I've got this." And before you know it, you're inside that thing without even committing it to the Father to speak for you. Before you know it, you're already engaging in that thing, not knowing when you even got there. And then it's midway, you're like, I didn't pray about this thing, but anyway, I'm good, sure, I know how to do this thing. The blood of Abel. God cursed that guy Cain, but he protected him in the end. Cain ended up killing himself. God placed a mark on him. But don't worry, nobody's going to kill you. But what Abel's blood was crying for was revenge. He wanted Cain, God, take his life. If you're relying on yourself, who sent you? Who is speaking for you? I am here, sir. I am worthy. You know, when the senior pastor tells you to pray for mercy and you can't kickstart yourself to pray, it's because that blood of Abel is there. You feel like, don't worry, God, me and you, there's no need for mercy. I haven't fornicated, I'm fine. When you hear let's pray for mercy, it's like, this is not a powerful prayer. This is not the one where pray for grace, pray for grace. You're still being pushed because you feel that blood of Abel is there. He's speaking for you. He's praying for you in that moment. He's crying out, but his cry can't really be heard like that. You're in situations, but you just feel, I got this. I got this. And that's why you can never complete that thing. Some of you are always at the finish line, but to cut the rope, you can't do. You can never do. You always have opportunities. Sir, this year is the year of testimony. And you will get there. And then at the end, bam. Nothing to show. 2018 is coming. And you're ready. They'll draw that picture of that woman. Remember that woman that I really hate? She's on the step with 2017. Boyfriend is dropping. In bad relationship. And she's walking. And she's carrying on. What? They're going to bring it out again, isn't it? They're going to bring it out. They can't help it. You feel you have things sorted. Abel's blood began to cry out. God will hear it, Sha, but the way God will act will never be like if the blood of Christ, if the blood of sprinkling, if the blood of Christ was speaking for you, it will never be the same. The boldness it takes to finish comes from when Christ has been speaking of you. When you come before a principality on earth, a tough situation, a stronghold, and the only person that can lift you from that stronghold is the Father. And you get to that place, and if only that Christ will talk for you. Because the Father's looking at you like, where are you going? Who are you? And no one has spoken for you. You're just there standing at the door. Standing at the door. This thing happened to David. He came before some gates. And when he came before these gates, he was saying, lift up your head, O ye gates. Lift up your head, O ye gates. The gate did not move. Until Christ spoke for him. It said that the King of glory will come in, not me. You, this situation in this week, I'm looking for testimony, not for me. It's all about him. So that he can come in. Lift up so that he can come in. That's when that thing begins to live. As far as